So how easy is it to actually generate $100,000 of passive income through properties? What's going on, everybody? It's Blandon here again, and welcome to this three-part series to how you can retire through properties. We're in the final part of the series, and in this video, we're going to explore three things. First, the property maths to $100,000 of passive income. Secondly, why majority of properties actually sucks to retire on. And thirdly, what's one simple way that you can increase the cash flow that you get out of your portfolio right now? So how do you achieve $100,000 through properties? Well, the first step is actually to build enough capital. But how much capital? And according to the 4% rule, the safe withdrawal rate that allows you to draw money out of your investment infinitely is 4%. This is 4% on a yearly basis. Meaning if you had $1 million sitting in shares or properties, you can safely withdraw $40,000 from these investments and be able to keep doing it perpetually. So your grandkids can draw out the same amount, and the grandkids can do the same amounts as well. Now, of course, some of you might think 4% is very conservative, and that is true, because there are definitely a lot of investments that are a lot higher yielding. But the 4% is a safe withdrawal rate based on historical data. So now we can reverse engineer this, because if you want to retire on $100,000 of passive income based on the 4% rule, that's roughly $2.5 million of investment assets. And remember, your owner occupied does not count as the investment asset. But the truth is, majority of the properties are not going to be able to give you a good cash flow to retire on. And frankly speaking, in Auckland, you're very unlikely to get 4% return on your properties because the average will be below 3%. And this is before you pay for your rates, your insurance, your maintenance costs, your property manager. And if you have a mortgage, you're likely to be on a negative cash flow. And so that is why majority of Auckland properties actually sucks for retirement, because you want more cash flow. So what you really want to do is actually to build up enough capital, and when you're close to your retirement age or target retirement age, is to potentially sell some of these assets for higher cash flow assets. This might be properties, but not necessarily be properties. It's very common that you find managed funds to have around 6 to 7% return, and it has a capital growth component to it. This is you being able to draw $60,000 for every $1 million that you have. And if you don't need the capital growth, there are actually funds that might even give you 10% or more in cash flow. So every $1 million that you have, you might get $100,000 in passive income. So you don't actually have to save up $2.5 million of equity. Now, if you're a savvy investor from Mortgage HQ, then you would know how to generate 10% cash on cash return on properties. And if you want to learn how, you can find out in our Stage 3 Masterclass, and I'll leave a link in the description below. So at the end of the day, the passive income goal, it really comes down to what you're needing for your target retirement age. Did you want to leave a legacy for your kids, or did you just want to have enough cash flow? Depending on what your risk appetite is, that's also going to change how you might swap your assets for cash flow. So how can you instantly generate a lot more cash flow from the property portfolio that you have already built up? It's actually to measure the opportunity cost. And I'm going to illustrate this on my iPad. So I'm just going to pop this up on my screen. And the way you measure opportunity cost is very simple. There are 3 C's that you always want to look for. And this is going to be an oversimplified way of how you look at it, but you will get the gist of it from looking at this. Okay, so the first C is cash flow. So here we have an older property that has a bit of land in the back, and because it's got a bit of land, the value of the property tends to be higher and the cash flow tends to be lower. And so we're going to rate it between 1 to 3, 1 being very low cash flow to the point where it's probably negative, 3 being cash flow positive. Even if interest rate were to rise, you're not too worried. So in this situation, we're going to give it a 1. Now, the second C is capital improvement. What does this actually mean? It's your ability to spend money on this property to generate higher cash flow or higher equity. Now, because it's got this land at the back, It allows you to build another house. So we would say that the capital improvement value is relatively high. So here we're going to give it a 2. Now the last C is actually capital gains. Capital gains usually have a correlation with capital improvements. The more potential opportunity to actually develop or build other things on the property, the higher the capital gains potential. So in this situation, we're going to give it a 2.5. Because it's not quite a 8-lot development, but you can definitely build another house. Now let's say we were trying to compare our opportunity with a higher cash flow property like this one here. We're going to pretend it's a brand new build home and income. And what that means is it's got 2 income on it because it's got a small house and potentially a minor dwelling of 2 bedrooms. So your cash flow is going to be slightly higher. And because you got the tax exemption on the interest deductibility, we're going to call the cash flow 2.5. Now, capital improvement is going to be lower on the new build because usually the land is well utilized. So we're going to put a 1 for the capital improvement. Now, depending how good the new build is and what area we're in, capital gains is going to be affected obviously by capital improvement. But if it was a well-built property and it's going to be high demand, nice school zones, then potentially we'll have slightly higher capital gains, but not as high as a property with lots of land. So we're going to give it a 1.5. So now we can look at the 2 properties depending on what we are needing at the time, and if we're nearing our target retirement age, we can see that the new build is going to be a much safer option because with the cash flow you don't have to worry as much, but you will sacrifice a bit of capital gains. So this is roughly how you can measure opportunity costs. And there is actually a third option we can look at right now because we've actually got this land sitting at the back and we could potentially put another house at the back, and we can now compare that opportunity cost if we swap to a new build. So let's pretend we can put another house at the back, and now we're able to increase the cash flow overall to around a 2.5 as well. Now capital improvement is going to be low now because we have pretty much maxed out the land. It's got already 2 incomes on it, and if we bulldoze it, we really want to build like 6 houses at least, otherwise it's not worth it. So our capital improvement value is very low now, and it's going to sit at a 1. But in saying that, with the capital gains, even though we have utilized the land, we are actually sitting on a decent section. So the capital gains is actually still going to be above average, and we're going to give it a 2.5 because the capital gains have not actually changed. We still have the same piece of land. So from this opportunity cost analysis, we can see that really quickly, this option here is the best if we're trying to get more cash flow and able to balance sort of our capital gains as well. We would do the build ourselves instead of selling it to buy something else. But you're going to be finding that a lot of properties in your portfolio that you have established, you might have units or perhaps houses that you actually can't do any improvements on it, and you might want to sell them and get a better opportunity. And opportunity cost is something that I recommend 100% all investor do it periodically, and you will be able to get the best out of your portfolio. And as always, if you learned something, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.